Well, hello and welcome to Move the Line, presented by 4for4.com. Betting subscription 4for4. It's the only resource you need for a profitable NFL season. Whether you're looking to win at fantasy leagues, play best ball, or just bet on any sport or market, 4for4.com is where you need to be this season. I am Ryan Noonan, excited to kick off our divisional preview series. And I am joined here, as always, by Connor Allen. What is going on, my friend? Nice little hiatus post-draft. Team smell the roses a little bit for the summer here, but we're here, man. It is time to kind of crack the nut here and get into the divisional stuff. What's going on, buddy?
Yeah, we're coming off our best NFL draft since, in years. It was awesome. I think it turned out really great for the most part. And this kind of crept up on us where we've been working on a lot of other stuff behind the scenes. And we're like, wait a second, we got to start getting this going to get all our division previews in. So, it's exciting to talk about everything behind the scenes and, each team. Each team, it helps a lot for our process, kind of getting the right mindset, understand the certain scheduling pockets. Even like looking at it closer today, I found a couple of different pockets for all the teams, honestly, that are really interesting. Yeah. I think we're going to have to reframe our mindsets at certain points of the season just based on how their schedule falls.
Yeah, it definitely snuck up on us. It was just kind of reverse engineering the math in terms of getting all of these in 1 week from here until really the start of the season. And then we always like to have at least a prop show where we start talking about a lot of season-long bets. I know you fired off a handful. People can find those in your Twitter account, not specifically the bets, but I know kind of your process and your mindset around that, specifically on the unders. If anyone's been a subscriber with us last year, you crushed unders on a whole new level. I think it's definitely been a shifting mindset for you over the last couple of years. Last year kind of went to a new level. So really excited about that. But yeah, we always want to get that prop show mixed in there as well. So we're going to talk AFC North today. Fantastic division. I think it's going to be exciting to kind of touch on, but make sure that you are subscribed here. 4for4 Bets on the YouTube channel, Move the Line, wherever you listen to podcasts, so you do not miss any of these episodes, along with the prop show to come. A lot of exciting stuff to come from us. We're going to be pretty busy on the news front here, as a company in the next couple of weeks, a couple of months specifically before the season starts in terms of tools and lots of different exciting stuff. We're very, very chomping at the bit to get some of the stuff out to you guys. So again, subscribe so you don't miss any of that. Really excited about what the 2025 NFL season is going to look like here at 4for4 and for the betting subscription in particular. So any questions specifically, DM us. We're happy to help. You can follow 4for4 Bets on the Twitter sphere as well, if that's your thing. So, buddy, jump right in unless you got anything else. AFC North, loaded. And the Ravens are obviously the belle of the ball from a scheduling standpoint. It is a little tricky. I love to look at the unique three. We always touch on kind of the teams that they're playing that their other divisional opponents are not, but just high level. All these teams are playing the AFC East this season. So that becomes when do you play the Bills? Are you playing Buffalo at home or away? That's tricky. And then NFC North. Overall, though, all four teams in this division have a tougher than average schedule based on projected win totals, which, is the best way to do it. When you look last year, I saw some work someone was doing, you're typically on average 2 to 3 wins off, which is kind of wild. But this is significantly a better way to do strength of schedule than last year's wins. We'll start with the Ravens. They are not only the favorite to win the division, they are co-favorites with Buffalo and Philadelphia to win the Super Bowl. It's 7-1. Win total 11.5, slightly juiced to the over. They are minus 140 to win the division. You can lay 450 for them to make the playoffs on Caesars. If you want to fade them, they are plus 4.25 to miss the playoffs. Best price there on MGM. And they are also plus 370 on FanDuel to be the top seed in the AFC. Talk to me about the Ravens, Connor.
Yeah, they kind of made some good moves, I think, in the offseason to end up stabilizing their team and really, in my mind, kind of be the dominant presence in this division here. Obviously, adding cornerback Jay Alexander. They added John Jenkins up front for depth. And then also on the offensive side, to stabilize their offensive line. Ronnie Stanley returning healthy, extended Derrick Henry, and then extended Rashad Bateman. Mark Andrews still there. Zay Flowers there. They've been talking up Tez Walker. It's really, at this point, I think just a very, very interesting team, top to bottom. Like when I looked at the division odds, and I kind of looked at, the Bengals, the Browns, the Steelers, the rest of the division, I kind of think minus 140 to win the division might even be short. I mean, the last 2 seasons, 12-5, 13-4, underdogs in just 2 games this season at Buffalo and at Kansas City within the first couple of weeks of the year. And I mean, just in a fantastic spot, I think, to, again, double-digit wins, easily compete for the division. And, you're basically getting, minus 140 is not a bad price there, I don't think. So I'm not I went through this week or this division. I have a lot of off-brand bets, like laying chalk on like a future that, will cash is very much not something that I normally do. But, here we are. I think that there actually is some value at this at minus 140, even in a pretty loaded division.
Yeah, it's tough. It definitely, I think, kind of flies in the face historically how we would approach these markets or futures in general. Laying 140, not typically my cup of tea for a bet that's going to be obviously sitting out there for quite a while. We were talking offline. I've kind of had very similar takes when we've done the AFC North over the last couple of years, not on purpose. Like I've tried to not have specific biases kind of pop in here, but I've kind of been on the little fade Baltimore. Really want Cincinnati to here to pop up, and would definitely think getting 2-1 or 3-1, whatever we can get from Cincinnati to win the division was probably the best way to go about it, and would be my favorite way to go about it. I can't this year, and I actually still like Cincinnati, so I'm still going to have pro Cincinnati takes. But I think that this Ravens team is really good and completely loaded and has depth in ways that I think they didn't really have in years past. I think Lamar continues to ascend. I mean, he probably had as good of a year last year as he's had historically in any year. He didn't win the MVP because, Josh Allen was great. It was just, a tough year. I think it was a crazy quiet 1,900 yards for Derrick Henry. I think they have more depth up front on the offensive line than they've had in years past. There's some shifting. Patrick McCarry's gone, but I think that they have some bodies that they can fill. Not having Zay Flowers in the playoffs was a massive, massive deal. He was so impactful for them, and to try to make it through and to beat Kansas City without him, just really a tough task because he was such a massive point of what they were doing. So having him back, whatever we get from DeAndre Hopkins, like you said, whatever, they just have depth in a lot of other places. It was the best offense in football by EPA, success rate, kind of by margin. And I just don't think there's any reason to think that they've declined. Part of my poo-pooing them historically has been defensively, that I think they were just, I thought they were going to desperately miss Mike McDonald last year as the defensive coordinator, and they really didn't. I think, I think Orr did a great job, and now the defense is better. Depth has been awesome. Like Nate Wiggins was awesome last year on the limited work that he got. They add Jair Alexander. He's not always going to play more than 10, 12 games, but when he's out there, I think he's great. They shifted Marlon Humphrey to the slot, which I think is a great play for him. They needed kind of a deep safety option, and they had Malachi Starks was like a home run draft pick for them. And then Mike Green falls to the second round because I'm always wondering how are they going to generate pass rush? They have kind of limited bodies. It's been just kind of a collective group and not a lot of dudes. So just such depth on both sides of the ball here. So I like over 11.5 wins. They've won at least 11 in every season with Lamar playing, I think at least 14 games. I don't love laying the 140 just from a strategic standpoint, but this is a divisional winner and I think a legit Super Bowl, contender. Now the schedule is a little bit tougher compared to, even the Bengals here. Their unique 3 is a little bit harder at Kansas City, and then they host the Rams and Houston, whereas, the Bengals have Denver, Jacksonville, and Arizona, but I think they're just so much better than them. So, and then just from an AFC standpoint, the Bills have such an easy schedule, regular season wise. So they probably have road playoff games ahead of them, but I think it's kind of maybe their year. They kind of get over the hump this year. I like the Ravens quite a bit.
Yeah, and also early on in the season, week 1 at Buffalo, week 2 against Cleveland. That's obviously fine. Then week 3, Detroit, week 4, Kansas City. I mean, that's really tough first 4 weeks of the season. So, I mean, that's I think if you think that you can wait and hold off, maybe they lose, maybe they're 2-2 after that, which I think is a very realistic outcome. you might get a better price on some of this stuff. But
Good.
like I think they could easily win all 4 of those games too. Like that would not be surprising because, like you said, like top to bottom, they're really hard to pick too many, like poke too many holes in. So I don't have too much honestly to say beyond that because again, just like roster wise, and they've been dominant. Like there just really isn't too much to add beyond a tough-ish schedule. I think it's 21st
Yeah.
easiest. So whatever that is, like 13th hardest, something like that, 12th hardest. So yeah.
I think they just offensively they're so hard to game plan for because they can be as Lamar's developed. I mean, they led in like drop back EPA last year, right? Like we need him to develop as a pocket passer. I don't know. It seems to be happening. Everybody like there's so much continuity there. So yeah, I think they are good chalk. Sounds like you agree. Next, Cincinnati. Cincinnati's 21-1, best price to win the Super Bowl. Win total 9.5. Juice to the over. FanDuel has that market there. Plus 240 to win the division. They are minus 160 to make the playoffs. So market's expecting them to do so. Plus 1.25 to miss. Injuries were a pretty massive piece of the puzzle for them last year, specifically on the defensive side. Ton of continuity offensively are basically intact. There's some camp battles ahead in terms of like interior guard on both sides, but overall, I think they should be better up front too. Again, health is a massive piece as well. But thoughts on the Bengals?
Yeah, I mean their defense was so bad last year. Maybe it was partially due to injury. Maybe it was partially due to scheme. They obviously fired Big Lou and Rumo, and so he's gone. I think now we're in a spot though. They hired defensive coordinator Al Golden from Notre Dame. I'm really curious to see how that works out because Trey Hendrickson, there's obviously a situation there with the contract situation. Their first round pick, Shamar Stewart, from my understanding, is still not reported. They're adding a new clause in the contracts that other teams have done. I was reading more into this. Like 6 or 7 teams have also done this and have also signed their first round picks. But it is new for the Bengals. And Shamar Stewart is basically saying, I'm not playing ball here. Has not reported so far to like any camps or anything like that. Now, again, it's not mandatory technically for the most part. And it's like, just off-season camp. But I mean, it's a big deal. Like these are 2 guys like that on a defense that doesn't have a ton of talent. So I think Al Golden's got his work cut out for him. And I think that we look at teams historically that play slow, boring offense in order to like hide their defense potentially. And that's just not what the Bengals do. Like that, they don't do that at all. They try and light up the scoreboard as much as possible. And that puts even more stress on their defense and makes it even harder, honestly, for them to keep up. Because if Cincinnati scores in whatever, a minute and a half, and they just, are ripping them, then the defense has got them in the field for a long time. And then happens again. And then obviously you would win shootouts, but how sustainable is that really? So I'm interested in your take on the defensive side and see if they can if they're better this year, because last year was pretty rough at times. Muted.
Amateur hour. They sure as hell won't be if they can't get Trey Hendrickson in camp. So that's going to be a challenge. The Shamir Stewart thing is not great, but I don't know, prospect take wise, like this is a guy that was fascinating in the pre-draft process, right? He was just a shorts and t-shirt all-star, no production. And how does that translate to the next level? So, that gets a little trickier if you aren't even in camp. So that's kind of putting them on the wrong foot. Look, I think injuries were like when it happens, we know that it happens. Like, oh shit, they lost this guy and he's down. But then later we kind of just forget. And it's like, oh, this is a trash ass defense. Like they're terrible. But they lost 2 corners in like the first month of the season in back-to-back weeks. And like just really hard to compete in the NFL these days with, 4th and 5th cornerbacks. And that's kind of what they were doing last year. So Dax Hill, I think, played a really good ball for them last year. He was transitioning from safety to slot corner. He's a willing tackler in the run game and played some really good coverage. I think he's going to be a great addition to be back. They lost DJ Turner as well, back-to-back weeks. He'll be back. There's some questions in terms of what they're doing in like linebacker too, but we drafted a kid, Demarius Knight, that I think is going to be a good player. I think the interior of the defensive line could be better. TJ Slayton from Green Bay is there. They drafted Chris Jenkins from Michigan last year in the 2nd round, started to get some more playing time. So I think it's going to be a better unit. I don't think it's going to be a good defense, and it relies heavily on Hendrickson being in camp and almost matching last year's production. But I think we probably both agree that if they're like, I don't know, 20th in like, EPA, middle of the pack defensively. Its offense is good enough if they stay healthy to be a playoff team, and they can still win shootouts. They just won't have to win shootouts every game because even the like lower level teams are scoring 30 plus on them. So I think they're going to be better. We'll see what the coordinator does and does differently, but there's enough talent if they stay like healthy to be okay.
Okay. I mean, yeah, and I think there's also another way to look at it too. It's like they don't have to be like awesome on a play-to-play basis. They just need to like do something well, whether it's create havoc or turnovers or sacks or pressure. Like they just need to do something well. And again, last year it was just nothing. And maybe it was because of injuries. Maybe it wasn't. I tend to think that Lou is a great coach. So if he couldn't make it work, I have serious questions. But I mean, I think that's a major question for this team. One of my favorite bets are like ways to play this team is with Chase Brown, actually. So like Chase Brown, 1,000 rushing yards is plus 175, 1,250 rushing yards is plus 650. I mean, he was a workhorse at Illinois, slightly undersized relative to other guys, but like he's not really like people thought of him as like a pass catching kind of plus back coming in, but that's like not who he is. Like he was 250 plus carries at Illinois coming in, and then was a workhorse down the stretch. Now he wasn't very good, but I think partially that was because of the offensive line problems and everything. Now I think that maybe they won't run the ball more, but like I think he gets almost all the work. So on a team that's going to need to score a lot and playing like in a lot of fun high scoring games, I think Chase Brown could see a ton of work. So I think those are a fun way to play, kind of like one of the props here, because the passing props are really, I think, baked in kind of to the upside there.
Ceiling outcomes. Yeah. Look, he's the dude that's always going to get, or you're going to get a higher level of light boxes than most guys, right? Just based off of how you have to defend Burrow and company. So I like that call. Another thing on the defense that I wanted to touch on briefly, they had the third highest red zone touchdown rate allowed. Those things regress a little bit, right? So they were bad. But when you look at like, even as bad as they were, when you look at just kind of like yards per drive and stuff, like they were towards the bottom, but they weren't like atrociously bad. They just were really bad in the red zone. Teams were getting to the red zone and scoring touchdowns, converting at a higher than league average rate. And that stuff can kind of, balance itself out, especially when you start to impact, injuries and stuff like that. So I'll be interested to see how it plays out, but I think it's a playoff team. I'm not laying 160 for them to make the playoffs. It's just too much variance in that to happen. The AFC is loaded and ascending, right? There's a bunch of teams in the AFC. It's definitely a different path in the NFC, but I would expect this to be a competitive team. They can't start 1-3, 1-4. The last 3 years, they've started the massive hole, and they just can't keep doing that to themselves. They keep having these like end of the season runs where they win 5 straight, or the Bengals going to find themselves in the playoffs again. They almost did it again last year, but you just can't keep starting 1-4 and then hoping that Burrow can be a hero ball, because he kind of can. He's fascinating, but like just maybe trying to win some games in September. Like that week 1 loss to New England at home.
Oh my gosh.
Cost the Pats the number 1 pick and the Bengals the playoffs. I mean, like an insane September, right? It's like you can't lose the season right away. One of those like type of analogies. Like, yeah, you can kind of lose the season in the first week, basically. That's got to be a W.
Yeah, no, that was crazy. I mean, yeah, and week 1 at Cleveland. We'll get to Cleveland here in a second, but the way that this matches up, depending on how their run defense is, this is it's going to be a sweaty game. They're 5.5 point favorites right now in terms of look ahead lines, but like laying an egg here would not be that surprising, I don't think.
I think that's why it's sitting at 5.5, is because I think there's probably a little bit of sharp money pushing up against like, ooh, do we want this? We don't want this to get to 6, or what happens here. So totally. It's fascinating. All right. Steelers are next here. 45-1 to win the Super Bowl, wins 8.5, slightly juiced to the under, minus 125 on FanDuel. They are 550 to win the division. You can get them at plus 140 to make the playoffs, minus 170 to miss. Obviously, a lot going on in Pittsburgh. They've been very busy. Aaron Rodgers, obviously, the big story, kind of closing the gap there. Fascinating to get your takes on Pittsburgh and Rodgers, who I think I heard Greg Cosell say it, and I think of how Rodgers can still move. He can still throw the football. He just doesn't have the secondary movements that he used to have, right? Like once the play breaks down, his legs were an asset for him, right? He wasn't necessarily running for 30, 40 yards a game all the time, but his ability to kind of create is maybe gone, but the arm still kind of feels like it was there at least a little bit in the second half in New York. So what are your thoughts on the Steelers?
Yeah, I'm of the belief that he is going to be fine and be able to do what's needed. And what I'm interested in, so I think they're giving him like a good structure to be in, right? So obviously the offensive line's fine. They drafted Caleb Johnson. They still have Jalen Warren in the backfield. They traded for DK Metcalf and Jonnu Smith. They still have Pat Freiermuth. Calvin Austin, I think, is a little bit underrated here as a field stretcher. And Roman Wilson didn't play at all last year, but was like a second-round pick. I think was just injured. Like I think he could probably rotate in and play, by the end of the season. So you have some reasonable weapons here. You have a great core there, and then obviously make the moves on the defensive side. Trade for Jalen Ramsey. I think that their defense has talent too, and so you're putting Rodgers in a spot here where, I think the last 7-8 years have broken our brains a little bit into what the Steelers have been historically with Tomlin. Like Ben Roethlisberger was back there slinging as much as he wanted for years and years and years. So I think they try and run the ball. I think that's going to be the core of what they do. But if they fall behind, Rodgers can get up to the line, check out of whatever run they're doing, and then throw a slant to DK Metcalf or someone else. That's inevitable. And then if they fall behind, he's going to be throwing it 40, 50 times a game. I think that this team is really a lot more fun than I think, what we've seen, just because the quarterback play has been so bad since end of career Roethlisberger, basically.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm cautiously optimistic on this team. I think that they have a little bit more juice than what the current odds are. But I'm interested in your thoughts on the defense, because it seems like they have some talent, some stars and a whole lot of just random pieces that have meshed together somehow in the last couple of years, but have never really been elite, if that makes sense.
It's a top 5 unit. They get TJ Watt in camp. We've been here before. TJ Watt has done this holdout all the way to week 1. And so what we seem to, and he wants to get the bag. So we could be in that case again. The good thing is that they probably have the best trio of edge rushers in the entire league. I think Alex Highsmith is massively league wide underrated. I think he is without a doubt top 10 edge rusher. Nick Herbig is awesome. Stepped in last year when both of those guys missed a little bit of time, and he's, I think, really dynamic. I think it's a great unit. I think they're really, really strong at all 3 levels. I think with the trade of for Jalen Ramsey, you put him in big slot probably. Joey Porter on the outside. They brought in Darius Slay, who's not necessarily that dude anymore, but good enough to be, he should still be starting in the league. It's a great safety room still. They lost Minka, but Juan Thornhill's a fine free safety. They gave Deshaun Elliott the bag, who is a run thumper. I'm absolutely infatuated with my guy Peyton Wilson at linebacker. As long as those knees hold up, the dude is a absolute dog. He's an elite coverage linebacker, and he has an absolute nose for the football. So he's really, really fun to watch. So for Steelers fans, I hope he was playing football with no ACLs. He missed a ton of time in college because he just kept having surgeries, but per game basis was awesome. I don't know. I thought Derek Harmon was a great fit for them. They like Keanu Benton. Kind of transitioning. Cam Hayward played really, really well last year, even though he's kind of in the twilight of his career. So again, pieces, all 3 levels, really, really good. And Tomlin seems, especially defensively, to be a talent maximizer. So I'm with you. I'm cautiously optimistic. I think this is another reason why I think the AFC is so hard to handicap, because Pittsburgh, I think, has legit playoff upside. I think it's probably an 8 to 10 win football team. And that's kind of where they often are, but 10 feels very much in the realm of possibilities.
Yeah, I think it was Deep Value Better tweeted out, and I know Whale and Andy have looked at the alts on the win totals of over the last decade. In win totals have not really been all that efficient. It misses by 2+ wins 69% of the time, 3+ wins 44% of the time.
It's crazy.
So I think an alt over on the Steelers is very much in play, especially if for some reason the Bengals don't take a step forward, or the Browns are even worse, or the Steelers just win a lot of easy games. They're scheduled to start really easy. Jets, Seahawks, at New England will be tough. Against Minnesota will be tough, but and then the bye, and then you get Cleveland. These are all very, very winnable games. If not, they're favored in 3 of those 5, and then they're 1.5 point dogs at New England, 1.5 point dogs against Minnesota. So, I don't think that's would it be that surprising if they're 4-1 after the bye, something like that? 3-2, and everyone's talking about, oh, the Steelers are back and Aaron Rodgers is back. That's not surprising at all. Now, I think they're underdogs in like 8 of their next 11 games, basically.
Yeah.
So when we talked at the beginning of the show, I was like, well, there's pockets of buying and selling teams. Buy the Steelers early, sell them late here. And I think, too, from a prop perspective, Aaron Rodgers' prop right now is set at 3,200 passing yards. He has hit that every single time he's played 10-plus games. Like, not even close. Because of the exact reasons that I just mentioned. I'm not betting the over on his season-long prop. Don't get me wrong. I'm not betting that. That's, like, crazy. But in my mind, it shows that in games where he's going to have to be forced to throw, there's going to be, like, insane value on alts. Like it's going to be – his baseline prop's going to be, like, 220. And then – he's going to throw for like 350. So just like a future note that I'm taking down right now, because based on that, like I can tell his props are going to be really, really low because I expect him to run the entire game. So,
yeah, it's a good call up. Yeah, the second half shift, Warren Sharp had this week 7 on most difficult based on opponents, third most difficult based on rest. So there's something to be said, though, just in terms of like it's a new group. And, if you get off to a hard start, like you said, they're 4-1. And, all of a sudden you start believing in yourself. There's a little bit more momentum. You kind of have a different feel for who you are. That can help move into the second half of the schedule. And again, that's based off of what we just determined is a fairly inefficient market, right? It's like some of those teams right now that look like they're going to be dogs against, they could run hot with injury luck. And all of a sudden the Steelers, their opponents do not. So you're playing a quarterback that's out. You're playing a backup team. So you never know. I'm cautiously optimistic as well. I don't know how to approach it from the prop market yet. Would love to see someone like whether it's Calvin Austin or Roman Wilson, emerge. I think having Jonas Smith helps in terms of them being able to go heavy personnel wise, with the tight ends. But yeah, I think they're going to be more fun to watch than they've been in the last couple of years. Right. So, Jeff's in the chat. Just, love to have Jeff back. It's Thor week, baby. Let's go, Jeff. How long do we have before Noonan tries to sell us on the Colts or Connor on the Bears? We'll get there. My Colts love is going to be diminished without, it was just holding the flame for Anthony Richardson. And, unfortunately the flame is extinguished.
We'll get there, but it's Jover. I mean, it's done.
I'm sad about it. Yeah. All right.
It's tough.
Steelers. Done with the Steelers. Browns to wrap us out. 300 to 1 to win the Super Bowl. Win total 5.5, juice to the under, minus 145 on FanDuel. They are 30 to 1 to win the division. That messes with my mind so much. 8 to 1 to make the playoffs, minus 1,400 to miss the playoffs. 30 to 1 to win the division. Again, I bet, if you follow me, I bet on golf a lot. 30 to 1, sometimes like the 5th guy on the odds board for the week. Like that guy legit has a shot to win the golf tournament. Rarely even have a lot of guys short of 30 to 1 to win golf tournaments. Browns do not have a 30 to 1 chance to win this division. They are not winning this division. They could be okay, but there's 3 teams ahead of them that are like very good. So fascinating team. Second toughest schedule in the league based off of win totals. That's really tricky. Again, telling you they're not going to win the division. It's been 35 years since they've won the division. They were not around for a handful of those years, so that's not completely fair. But again, since realignment, since they came back like 2002, they have not won this division. And then, again, with this quarterback room, Connor, I don't know how it's going to shake out, but it doesn't feel like the time that they get over the hump finally.
Yeah, I don't know if they get over the hump, but I think that they're going to be better than what the market projects right now. So, which is, very low bar. They are the second hardest strength of schedule, but I think they're underdogs in virtually every game, except for 2. Yeah, they're dogs in all but 2 games this year. No, 1 game. Sorry. So it's against Tennessee, which I think Tennessee is going to be better too. So they're probably going to be an underdog in that game when it rolls around. But that being said, I think that there could be a little bit of value on this team. They still have a lot of good core. Defensively, I think is interesting. Offensively, they have their offensive line is good, but the quarterback situation is a mess. Trade for Kenny Pickett, added Joe Flacco, drafted Dylan Gabriel. I'm assuming the owner forced them to draft Shedeur Sanders down the road. You could, if you saw their GM's face and Stefanski's face when they picked him. Like they weren't happy. Like there's videos of like him just like, very much not excited to draft Shedeur. But I don't know. I mean, I think they seem to be handling it all right now. Drafted Quinshon Judkins and Dylan Sampson kind of as their running back replacements there. I think that was a great move as well. And some of the early reports out of Cleveland from their coaching staff is that they're going to go back to their 2021, 2022 ways of just like pounding the rock, establishing identity there, and then hoping to like live to see another day on defense. So I touched on this with the Bengals potentially if their defense is that bad, because like some teams can win games that way. It's just like, grind it out, hope to, maybe get a stop on defense, a couple of stops on defense, a turnover, and then capitalize if you ever make it to the red zone. And so I think that's probably the move. I also think that the Browns quarterback situation is bad, but just because there's not like a clear starter doesn't mean that like Pickett or Flacco, I mean, they're really bad, but they're like,
where are we going here?
They can be like fine from time to time. Like they can be better, way better than what they've had. Like for sure, way, way, way better than especially what they had last year with DTR. So I don't know. I'm not buying the over 5.5, but I think on a game-to-game basis, like there will be some spots. We talked week 1, Cincinnati. I think it's just a bad matchup for Cincinnati. Like I think that the Browns could easily just win outright. And there will be times to like pick and choose our spots here. But I mean, before you bet anything, like need to know the quarterback, need to know what's going on there. Deontay Johnson gave up on multiple teams and is now like shooing in as like the third receiver on their team. I have no idea. Jamari Thrash and like it's a total mess on the offense. But it doesn't mean that there couldn't be something pieced together. It's just very uncertain.
It's not an awful roster. It's really not on either side. Like, Jerry Jeudy kind of emerged. Cedric Tillman flashed last year. They're going to be able to run heavy 12 personnel with you running the ball. They obviously Njoku was great, but they drafted Harold Fanning. Like maybe there's something there that they want to do. It's just a quarterback. The Joe Flacco that was here a couple years ago didn't show up in Indy last year. So, it was that small sample variance. We're obviously getting up there a little bit in age. Seems like the leader in the clubhouse to take week 1 snaps. I don't know. The Shedeur stuff is so interesting to me. I think it like became so much bigger than it is. That's a steal of a draft pick in the 5th round. I understand that all that comes with it is so much more, and that's why he fell. But he's better than day 3 talent. I just really think he is. And all things so far seem to be okay. Now he's buried. I don't think we were seeing him for a little while, but I don't know. It's interesting to see how that kind of plays out between, I guess, Pickett and Flacco to start. But I don't know. They seem to love Dylan Gabriel apparently.
Early in the season, I think we could see Pickett to start. My opinion is Pickett to start, and then we see one of Gabriel or Shedeur like week 7-ish when they probably are like 1-5, 1-6, something like that. Because then they play at Miami, New England, then the bye, or after the bye against the Jets. That could be an interesting spot to see a rookie. I would be shocked if they go from Pickett to Flacco or Flacco to Pickett, and if that's the case, that means the rookies are just disasters, basically. I
mean, Gabriel. There's nothing from his like time in college that looked like a Kevin Stefanski offense. Doesn't mean he can't learn it. I'm sure they, worked on it with him to see if that was something that he could do. But interested to see how it plays out. Still a solid offensive line, a lot of good players up there. Again, that was another part of their struggles last year. A ton of injuries up front. Defensively, they're fine. Carson Schlesinger, defensive rookie of the year tickets, get those in there if you haven't already. Think you still get 50s. Should be starting linebacker on a team that should face a lot of running back rushes against. Could stack up some some tackles and some other numbers there. It's a solid secondary still. Like it's all back. The injuries were a problem there last year. I mean, Denzel Ward, Martin Emerson and Greg Newsome is a nice trio. I like Ronnie Hickman. He's, played some good ball at Ohio State. I like Grant Delpit. All these guys were injured last year. So they're coming back to, Mason Graham in the middle with Malik Collins. Obviously, anything you could do to kind of highlight and get Myles Garrett free is going to be awesome. Like it's a solid team. like we just got to figure out the quarterback position. There's not, I don't think there's a lot of like high level offensive weapons, but I think they're all fine. So I'm kind of with you that like not rushing out to bet over 5.5, but like I think they're going to be way more competitive week in and week out. And I think you've highlighted a good one in week 1.
Yep. Yeah. I think that's an interesting one. I mean, there's just not a lot of, I mean, looking at the spreads, it's a little bit tough early going on. Like, it's just like real tough. 5.5 against Cincinnati, which again, we think they can win, but then it's like 12.5 at Baltimore, 5.5 against Green Bay, 10.5 at Detroit, +7 against Minnesota, 6.5 against Pittsburgh, and then it's like even against Miami, who knows what's going on there right now. So yeah, I'm again not rushing to bet that. I do think that an interesting bet right now off of kind of what we've been talking about is Quinshon Judkins over 675 and then 1,000 plus is +350. Last year, despite being again the worst team in the league or one of Jerome Ford, Nick Chubb, Deonta Foreman, Pierce Strong combined for 1,237 rushing yards. Like, I think Judkins going to like basically all the early down work, and then I would assume Sampson or Ford will be like the pass catching guy, and maybe sprinkled in on some like running work. But like, I think Judkins is going to see, I don't know, 13 plus carries a game, and way more if they're staying in the game. I mean, maybe 15 plus if they're in the game. So I don't know. I think that's kind of an interesting one there. I hate betting base prop overs. It's not something I do, but I do think the upside there, like, is, I mean, 1,000 yards is at +350 is not really that crazy if they can play remotely well defensively. Because I think Judkins is by far their best running back and going to see most of the work on a team that should play better, at least, we would think.
And then, I haven't seen the data on like adjusted games lost due to injury, but like Brown's offensive line has to be up there just from like a unit standpoint. They missed so much time, and now I'm getting these guys back. It's pretty massive, like organic upgrade just by getting the guys that you would tend to be in the lineup. So, in knowing that they're going to be shifting, right? Just a lot of like, we're going back to the basics. Like you said, like we're kind of getting off of what we're trying to do to kind of placate Deshaun, and we're going to go back to Kevin Stefanski ball. With the limitations at quarterback, sounds like it's going to be a run-heavy team, right? Just shorten these games, muck them up, and bring in some variance. Running the football does that, so that's a good look. 675? It's not that high.
No, I mean that's really. I mean, I don't even know what is that like. Even if he plays
like
15,
40 yards a game,
that's nothing. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, I'm interested, I guess, to see actually. So this is actually something I'm going to write down right now. What is his week 1 prop line? Like, if its prop line is like 35 in the 30s, like, I mean, that's an easy over. Like, I can't imagine it's going to be, because of like Camp News is going to get there, like, oh, Quinshon Judkins clear number 1 in early downs, and then it's going to be like 50 in the 50s, and it's not really playable. But against Cincinnati, week 1 at home, I mean, he should get there. He should have an interesting game week 1. So I don't know.
They definitely have to take that game plan, like specifically against Cincinnati, run the ball, shorten the game. Like it'd be foolish not to. So, all right. Jeff wants to sell us on a Burrow over 35.5 passing touchdowns ticket. I can tell you right now, Connor's not interested in that. I feel pretty confident in that.
Play 40 plus, get some reach down in your pants and, grab the cojones and, play some alts, baby. Don't be don't be playing just a regular -115. Just do the alts. Alts are nothing.
Great avatar update for you, Jeff. Really, really proud of you. It's good stuff.
It's great.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think, alts on win totals is something I think we'll continue to talk about during the preview series here, based off of some of the research that, Whale and some other folks have done that kind of shows you how inefficient those are. And same, especially if I think you're chasing overs in particular, I feel like chasing alts, like if you think you're going to be right, you might as well kind of creep into the higher upside of it, where you're kind of banking on taking an over anyway, that someone is guaranteed health, right? Just a huge variant in chasing season long overs. So you might as well just pretend he's going to be really good and play 16, 17 games and bank on the alts.
Yeah. Taylor brought up here too. I couldn't imagine not putting 2 units on Burrow passing yards, solely play on health. Every healthy season surpassed 4,150 3 times now in his career. Yeah, I mean, I personally don't love to just bet on health, but I do think that, like, I agree. Like, he's 100% hitting the over on anything Bengals if as long as he stays healthy. So,
Yeah.
I mean, there's no reason, no reason betting under, and I love betting under. So I think that's a sign there that's probably a good look on the over.
Yeah, like when Connor leans over on that for sure. All right, appreciate everyone hanging out. Again, make sure that you subscribe before you take off. 4 for 4 bets here in the YouTube channel. Move the line wherever you listen to podcasts. We'll be back again every week with a divisional preview as we lead into the start of the season. And again, you're going to want to subscribe because you're going to want to hear some of the news and announcements that we have tool-wise, specifically with the 4 for 4 betting subscription here over the next couple of months. Get in, lock in that price now. Would be a great move for you too. Again, anything you're doing in the football speculation space, fantasy, season long, IDP, if you're coming to hang out with me in the, tackle streets, get in now, lock that in. We're going to have a great season. So I appreciate you hanging out with us. Again, we'll be back next week. For Connor, I'm Ryan. We'll see you all next time. Thanks, everybody.